listening as if the internet would not be the outer world. Yes, when people ask me, what is the secret, or what has been the most vital or essential ingredient in the mix, in the recipe for my own emergence or remembrance or reawakening and Kundalini awakening process? Well, there would be many, of course, because it is a very rich brew. So there's so many ingredients activating each other. But I would have to say that one of the main ones is me being off the grid for at least 7 years. Mm-hmm. Me being without electricity, without wires, without a mirror, without a bathroom, with barely any walls enclosing me, and having that direct interaction with nature, with unmanicured, uncultivated, unadulterated nature. Yeah. And with less interaction with human beings, actually. And so one of those main ingredients, if I go there, was to not be speaking English, actually. Mm-hmm. To not have those forms and sequences and ideations being expressed or being reinforced by the speaking of any recognizable tongue, especially English. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What if you could give words to the difference that this made compared to a nervous system that's constantly on the grid? How would you phrase that? How would you try to describe in English?
Initially, it really felt, and this was in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. So it felt like being unplugged, literally, like having for a while it was just a non-stop streaming or purging outwards of my body-mind complex. Mm-hmm. Any and all previous idea or notion of forms, of shapes, of colors, it's like being emptied. So the main difference between the nervous system that is constantly on the grid and knows only that, really, to living for an extended period of time without any of that interference or intervention in the nervous system from sounds and colors and forms that are electrified in the mind of a man or channeled into your own body through structures, construct, wires, machinery, that is the brainchild of a man, meaning that it's just sounds of nature, just organic sounds born not of man, but of birds and other creatures, and the bamboo in the breeze, and the surging river, and the crickets. So the difference between the nervous system, my nervous system, for instance, if I speak from my own experience of being off the grid and then interacting on the grid, is a difference that could be described in terms of food, in terms of drink, of food, of sustenance, whereby the sustenance or the nutrition that I would be receiving off the grid without those electronic interferences, it would be like having milk straight from the mother's breast. It would be like taking of fruits straight from, you know, a long forgotten tree, even maybe the forbidden tree. And then compared to something that is artificially produced, synthetic, or bastardized or adulterated in some way, that when I would take into my nervous system, when that input is being circulated through my nervous system, the input that comes from being on the grid, my nervous system definitely recognizes the difference. In the same way as I would recognize the difference between something that is pure and whole and uninterfered with, compared to something that is toxic, poisonous, or so refined and processed that my system would have a hard time to derive an immediate nourishment from it, where my system would have a more challenging time to assimilate and evacuate it accordingly in a natural way. So that is the main difference between something pure and whole and organic and immediately nourishing and able to be assimilated, compared to something that my system would have to work harder to recognize and to filter out and to ultimately eliminate, knowing that the nourishment is not, you know, wouldn't be something so benign. The substance isn't immediately benign. It's there's more processing of it out of the system. Yeah, that's why when we go off the grid back into nature, when my nervous system is back into pure nature without that interference, it's like, you know, being able to trust and being able to open the nervous system fully without fear of being contaminated, to give up oneself fully.
It has a tragic beauty that we talk about that being connected via internet, and it touches me so much. It resonates deeply, but besides that, it's like pulling you in front of a webcam feels like asking you to sacrifice something. And that is something that you give words to and that you describe with a kind of generosity of a nervous system, in this case, your nervous system. But still there is something of, it's unquestionable that what we try to gain from connection through internet has a price on some level. I think we know. And of course, your nervous system is like so out loud in knowing how it knows, because it knows the difference between nourishment and false nourishment. And I think what happens so often is, since we never ever get the remembrance of this true nourishment, just safe, trustworthy nourishment, we go into, let's connect with our Facebook friends. I mean, just because we crave for connection and we crave for being in sync with all those frequencies around, and then those frequencies around reflecting back to us how much we are into false nourishment, starving in a way of let's nourish ourselves at least here. And it touches me deeply that there is some kind of, there is no way of you developing an addiction to the false nourishment just because you know the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And at the same time, our nervous systems can be trained, and we can draw out the innate capacity of the nervous system to adapt And we can feed and support our nervous systems to be more resilient as they are, as the nervous system encounters the necessity to integrate the worlds of off-grid and on-grid, of inner and outer. So even as I'm here sacrificing to be in front of the webcam, at the same time, my system can draw from the essential flavors of what it is to connect with you right now through my sense organs. So I'm still able to, through seeing you, Ilan, through being able to take in through my eyes, to take in through my ears, and even in a sense to reach out and touch you, because through my eyes and through what I'm seeing, I'm able to have an experience of the softness, the smoothness, the moisture in your skin, of the roundness and the contours and the textures and the colors of all your features. So I'm still having a nourishing experience as I communicate and connect with you here, even in this form. So there is this need now for me, as I come more into the wired world.
Which wild world? Are we wild? We are so tamed. We are just humans. You are the wildest species on Earth, guys. Whoa. Welcome in the truly shocking wilderness. Wow.
Requires me to up level, to upgrade, to give extra support of my nervous system to be able to mutate if necessary, to roll with it, to roll with it, to navigate the flow by training in the technology necessary. So I can do this, Ilan.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And there are at least 3 traces that feel so rich for me. I want to jump into them.